Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today is Thursday. It is March 30th, 2023. My name's Jeremy, and this is my first cup. Black coffee, decaf. Who's here? I want to say good morning to Frank and Mark and Stacy. And there are a whole bunch of others in the chat that haven't said hello. I hope you will all say hello. I hope everybody always says hello. Even if that's the only time you type into the chat, it's just nice to know who's here because it's the only way I know who's here. And some of you, good morning, Nathan. Some of you I know really well. Some of you I only know from you coming on this show. But once in a while I get to meet you in person, and it's nice to be able to put a name to the face to the name. There we go. But if I don't have a name, I'm just putting a face to nothing. You're just a face. Good morning, Dennis. How are you? Dennis says, let's do this pre-Friday thing. And Stacy says, Jeremy, you sound better. Thank you. We're going to talk about that, actually. Good morning, Rebecca. So if you have a bizarre memory and I occupy too much of your brain, you will remember that last year, I thought I was sick. Let's see, this would have been May. I think it was May. Anyway, short version, we discovered it was allergies. I think I've got allergies because it's acting the same way. Now, I didn't know you could have allergies when there's still snow on the ground, but Stacy mentioned it the other day. So who knows? Either I'm very suggestible, or I have a very weird cold, or I have allergies. Well, I'm running with it like allergies because I don't know what else to do. Because I feel fine, and all the data coming back from this thing says, yeah, you're in great shape. I feel good. I went to the gym. My body performs. I've got energy for the most part. But when I'm really congested, I'm kind of run down. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Kelly. Frank, almost psychically, I bet he's not better because of neti pot. That's true. I have a neti pot. It's the worst thing in the world. I hate it. Good morning, Jenny. So this is probably what's going on. Dennis says, pollen counts have been medium to high for the past 2 weeks. My allergies have already kicked in this season. I think this is what's going on because historically, that's the thing that triggers my allergies. Not that prior to last year it was anything of note, but if the pollen was really high, it would mess me up. There was one day, I was a kid. I still remember this. I was young enough that it freaked me out. I woke up and my eyes were sealed shut. Because, see, it's going to make my eyes water just thinking about it, even though it's, geez, where are we, 37, 8 years ago. And I still remember it that vividly because it was terrifying. But I got up and I got to the bathroom sink and I put water on my face and I was able to open my eyes. Now I'm all bloodshot on camera. Lovely. Yeah, I have tissue with me. How are you? What was your Wednesday like? I want to know. Jenny says, my allergies have been affecting me too. The odd weather caused pollen to rise earlier than normal, if there was a normal anymore. That's a good point. That makes sense. What did I do? So had 3 client calls yesterday. One of them was a little impromptu, and I'm going to share a bit of this. It's a martial arts school, but I'm not going to say much because I'm protective of my clients, and I don't talk about clients publicly or to other clients unless it's something that they initiate. So this one client reached out, and they're a newer client. We're in month 2. Ooh. And their school's a little bit different than most schools. I'm not going to say how, but they've had some challenges, and they've worked with other consultants. And those consultants, I think, really have just taken their money. It's really been a shame. So we're working on a number of things to get them going. And this person reached out to me yesterday morning and said, I'm really stressed. Can we have a call? And we did, and it was good. And what was stressing them? Bottom line, they thought they should be further along than they were. And we've talked about that on this show. In fact, we talk about it quite a bit. This idea that that there's a timeline, that you have this plan. And it's nice to have a plan because it gives you an idea where you're trying to go and how you might get there. But I think one of the worst things people do is they apply too much value to the timing of the plan, especially when that plan involves other people. For this particular person, they had decided that because they did something in an effort to get new students and it didn't work out, that everything they were doing must be wrong. They spun out of control. And we talked about it a bit, and the reality was no. What they were doing was pretty darn close to perfect. There were just a couple things that needed to be changed that I think will have a pretty dramatic impact. And so we talked about those and gave him some suggestions on what he might do next, and we'll move forward. But I think it's a great thing for all of us to consider. I gave him this analogy, and I said, do you hike at all? And he said, no. And I said, okay, well, this analogy might not mean much to you. But I said, when you're hiking, imagine that you're hiking, and there are lots of trees around. How do you know when you're at the top of the mountain? And he thought, and he said, I guess when you're at the top of the mountain. I said, exactly. If you're hiking a mountain that you've not been on before, and you're not using the All Trails app or GPS or something to tell you where you are, if the trail isn't marked with lots of signs, you don't know that, 200 feet right there, past that bend or through those trees, is the top. You can often get a sense, but you don't know. And in fact, I've hiked plenty of mountains that had a false peak or a double peak. You're like, oh, this is the top. Nope, I still have a mile to go. Oh, okay. And a lot of people, in a lot of ways, whether it's hiking or growing your martial arts school, start to get discouraged and they turn around. They take a different trail. They give up when they were so close. Something to think about. Rebecca says, yesterday I took my son to get his hair dyed. It was a very long process. And despite making a 3:30 appointment, I ended up being there with him until 7, making me miss my jiu-jitsu class. The worst part was after finally getting home, my son was very disappointed that the color wasn't vibrant enough. So now I have to try to fix it. Quite frustrating with all the money I spent. I'm sorry to hear that. My brief experimentation with coloring my hair when I was a kid was because I had dark hair. If I wanted anything to happen, I needed to dye it blonde first. And I seem to remember your son having dark hair. So maybe they did that, maybe they did not. But something to consider. I haven't had coffee. When was the last time I had coffee? It's been over a week. Coffee is tasty. So how about all of you? Tell me what you did here. I'm going to cuddle up in my blanket. No, that looks ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. Tell me what you did yesterday. Tell me about the highlights. I also went to the comedy club. There was an improv competition going on over the last few weeks. It was the finals. It was absolutely awesome. Had a great time. Sat with some of the folks from my improv class. Chatted with them a little bit. Went to the gym for a little while. was a good day. I got home a little later than I wanted. I got to bed a little bit later than I wanted. So when I woke up, I actually did not wake up at 5. I woke up at 6:10 to do the show because I've got time to do my morning routine after the show, and I wanted a little bit more rest. And I'll be honest, I'm still tired. I'd still like to go back to bed. And I'm going to take a look at what's on my schedule, and maybe I will. I don't know yet. I like sleeping. I like the rest. It feels good. If everything goes as planned, I'm going to go to CrossFit tonight. What else am I doing today? Got a number of client calls, bunch of work to do. Tomorrow's packed with work. There are a lot of work things happening that I will do, that I'm looking forward to. Looking forward to getting some of this stuff done. Good stuff. We'll see. Frank says, what a coincidence. I woke up at 6:10 too. Ha! Like mine. Jenny says, Lilith, her daughter, is sick. I'm so sorry. We cuddled and watched movies and colored and played with trains. I have a sore throat today, so I'm thinking I may have caught it too. I'm sorry, but I hope you feel better soon. I don't know that I've shared this before. Let me share this with all of you. If you are sick, here is the thing that I know best to help you. Not so much, well, it can help you get better. I think of it more as something to help you function while you're sick. You can heat up some water on the stove. You can, I suppose I don't have a microwave, you can throw all this stuff in a microwave and cook it up as tea. You can make tea, and then after you're done, you just have to make sure it's hot. And then you can add this stuff. Or what I've been doing lately is I have broth for my last turkey breast, and I've been cooking that up on the stove and adding this stuff. There are 3 really critical ingredients: cayenne pepper, ginger, and garlic. Now, fresh is always best, but most of us don't have fresh for all of those. And if you're using fresh, you just got to cut it up real fine or smash it up. And you're basically steeping it and cooking it in the water, the tea, or the turkey soup. If you also have onion powder, you can add that. If you have a little bit of cider vinegar, you might consider adding that, but it doesn't make it taste it. I think it negatively impacts the taste. Some people add sweetener. Don't. Carbs are, just as they're easy for us to digest, they're easy for whatever bacteria is going on in your body to digest. So don't do that. Okay. And when you drink it, it's spicy. So it's doing 2 things in there. At least this is how it was explained to me by an herbalist. It's accelerating the body with the cayenne, and the garlic, and if you add the onion, the ginger, those function as antiviral, antimicrobials, right? So it's garlic, believe it or not, is an incredibly powerful antiviral, fungal, bacterial, and helps knock out whatever you're dealing with. So I've been drinking this for years. I used to date an herbalist, and this was one of the major takeaways. She's a wonderful person, but we didn't work out. And if I'm sick and I have to do things, I will cook this up, like a bunch of it, keep it in a thermos, and like every hour I'm having a small cup of it, and I can function. It's pretty incredible. Stacy says, had a great adjustment at the Cairo yesterday and feels so much better, but dang, I felt ungrounded and floaty all day. I understand that feeling. She says, currently my back feels better than it has in ages. Well, I hope that means you'll continue going. I was pretty lucky. One of my best friends used to have a chiropractic practice, and she would adjust me every other week. I took care of all of her computer work. I mean, this was like a 10-year trade. It was awesome. She was my primary doctor. She was great. People don't realize your typical chiropractor has more hours of diagnostics than your typical MD. Did you know that? Chiropractors, because so much of the rest of the medical world thinks they're quacks, they hold themselves to a higher standard in a lot of ways. I have not had an adjustment since she sold her practice. But fortunately, over the time that I worked with her, I learned a lot. So I take care of myself for the most part. But yeah, I would like to see our chiropractor again. Maybe that'll happen. Now, we do have some stuff to talk about because Frank sent over stuff, because Frank is the best and he makes sure we always has to talk about. All right. All of these messages, Frank sends me these on, there we go, on Facebook. And there's always way too many messages from people on Facebook. It's getting kind of ridiculous. Everybody wants a piece of me. Jenny says, I make tea with fresh ginger and lemon to drink every morning. I use a cheese grater to grate the ginger. I often make recipes that have both ginger and garlic for stomach health. I can't do cayenne, but I understand the mix you described. Sounds like it would help for sure. Are there any spicy things? Because it's the spicy part. You know, maybe you can't. Oh, come on, go away. Maybe you can't do cayenne. Because for those who don't know, cayenne is a nightshade. Cayenne pepper. Peppers are a nightshade. And that's what it is for you, right, Jenny? No nightshades. But is there something else? There are different kinds of garlic. There are spicier garlics. I wonder if that would work. By the way, it snowed last night. So the ground is completely white again. Kelly was fortunate to go to an award ceremony with 19 other outstanding women in Vermont. So many turned tragedy into something beautiful and charitable. I highly recommend checking them out at WOKO. Oh, and Jenny says, I can't do spicy. Got it. But you can do garlic. That surprises me. Frank says, maybe if you put your back into it, you can see a chiropractor again. That's funny. All right. So where's our stuff? Present. Here we go. My brain is a little bit foggy this morning, and I'm chalking it up to, well, I took Benadryl last night, so it could be that. I don't generally take anything. There we go. And then this one, and then we do this. Okay. You can always give something, even if it's a simple act of kindness. If everyone were to give in this way and didn't scrimp on kindly words, there would be much more love and justice in the world. We talked about this yesterday. The idea that you don't have to give everything, that it doesn't have to be major. It can be little. Here's a great example. As the improv class that I'm part of, as we were discussing last night, how we were going to make all of last night work. One of the people asked about saving a seat, and I said, yeah, I can save you a seat. She ended up getting there before me, but she bought 2 tickets. She bought my ticket. Now, granted, they're $7. So it's not like she's busting the bank. I said, you want me to buy you a drink? She's like, next time we go out as a class, just buy me a drink, right? To her, it was not a big deal. And in her seat, it wouldn't have been a big deal to me. You know, I'd buy a $7 ticket. In fact, last week when we all went out, I bought all the food. But to me, it was a big deal because it was something kind that she didn't have to do. And I want you to think about that. What was the last time you did something for someone that was not a big deal to you, but it was a big deal to them? How did you feel? Now, on the flip side, some of us, and myself included, when someone does something nice for us, we have a hard time receiving it. I've been trying to get better at that. You know what? Thank you. You're right. It's not a big deal, but I do appreciate it. Now, I don't like to owe people things, but this wasn't a debt. This wasn't someone saying, I will buy your ticket and you can pay me back. It was someone saying, I'll buy your ticket. I didn't ask for it. She just did it. Oh, That's really nice. It's okay for people to do nice things for you. In fact, we need both sides of that. If you're someone who likes doing nice things for others and you have a hard time when people do nice things for you, that's out of balance. Something to work on, right? Just as I'm working on it. Stacy says we're still talking about nasally things and illness things. I love making a big bowl of boiling water and add in curry. Hang my head over it with a towel. Steam and curry vapors. Just reading that makes my eyes water. Oh, just reading the chat. If you never join us live, you miss out on the chat. I don't put everything up on the screen because some of it I think fits better as a chat in between everyone. Our next quote. I'm guessing these are all from Anne Frank. Yes, it looks like they are. The only way to truly know a person is to argue with them. For when they argue in full swing, then they reveal their true character. I wonder if she would feel the same way about today. Because what do we know about most people then from the way they argue? Most people are stubborn, are not open-minded, repeat what they were told, don't fully understand it, and are so committed to their views that they would rather make personal attacks than risk having their mind changed on a wide variety of subjects. Is that true? Is that where we are? I hope not. Now, of course, these quotes were written 80 years ago or more. And things have changed a bit. Things haven't changed completely, but they've changed a bit. So maybe she would look at the world a little differently today. I don't know. I will say that having, whether we call it an argument or not, having a deep one-on-one discussion in person is a wonderful way to get to know someone. I knew someone once who said, I don't feel I truly know someone unless I spar with them. This person ended up being a little bit nuts. Ironically, despite the fact that they were a martial artist, I knew them through other means. Never trained with them, never sparred with them. And in fact, when I learned that statement, learned that they had made that statement, they had said it to another person in a non-martial arts setting, and that person felt quite threatened. I had to do some damage control on that. Yeah. Getting to know people through one-on-one interaction. Ideally when there isn't an agenda, when there's no consequence, and when you're peers. Maybe that's why I love podcasts so much, because that's most of what happens. Most podcast conversations that I listen to are one-on-one between two peers as they unpack a subject or 12, and they learn from each other. Kelly says, opposing discussions tend to become very emotional. And Frank adds, perhaps it was different then because so many arguments today are online. And I think that's why I said face-to-face. I think there's something in there. There's a quote that I've put up on Facebook. You've all probably seen it. And I forget who it's from, but it's to the effect, the internet has made too many of you comfortable with saying things and not getting punched in the mouth for it. There are consequences, or there should be consequences when people act poorly. If people say terrible things to your face, there is For most of us, a very small risk, but there's a risk of getting punched in the mouth. People tend to act better when there's the risk of consequence. Stacy says, I'm betting that is something in the translation, and she'd still say that about a lively debate, but an argument is personal, and that's a great point. Kelly says face-to-face communication is becoming rare. Yeah, I think because a lot of people have less skill with let's sum it up as agree to disagree. It's one of my least favorite things over the last few years. People that I know to be very articulate, very intelligent, very compassionate, very open-minded. I've watched them engage in online discussion that is anything but any of those. Someone yells at you online, even though it's online, and even though most people are a little bit different online, does that make you want to engage with them face to face? No. And then we have any of the people will say, folks about my age, maybe a little bit younger. I'm 43. Anybody under 40 is referred to as a digital native. You've probably heard that term. The idea that they grew up with technology. What about the kids who grew up with cell phones? The kids who grew up with FaceTime? It's hard to believe, but yeah, 2007, 2008, there are plenty of kids who've had a phone almost their entire lives. It's a whole different set of social skills. In fact, I think phones are the reason lots of kids aren't getting their license. It used to be that you needed a car to get away from your parents to have some independence. You don't need that now. You just need a fake Instagram account. Stacy says, sometimes people at work wonder why I call others at times versus an email. It's nice to remember there's a person on the other end. One of my rules is that the moment I start to feel emotional when I write an email, if I have the option, I will make a phone call. Even better if I can meet them in person. If I start to get emotional, and there's something I need to deal with right now, I made a note of it a couple of weeks ago, and I don't want to deal with it because I shouldn't have to. But I need to, so I will. I could try to handle this over email. It's not going to go well because it's emotional. It's me bringing an emotional subject to someone. So what am I going to do? Bring them an email that says, can we set up a time to chat on the phone? Or even better, over Zoom. Because it's going to go so much better. We know that. You ever had a circumstance where you were texting with someone and they misunderstood your texts? Happens all the time. In fact, it happens a lot, probably a lot more than you realize, because we tend to take shortcuts. Emojis can be misinterpreted. That winking emoji, probably my favorite one, can either be friendly or sarcastic or dirty, right? Like it can go in a lot of different directions. And people interpret your communication through their own filters. And if they don't have tone of voice and facial expression, remember, 80+% of communication is nonverbal. If they don't have any of that, they're left to their own devices and it can go sideways. Something to think about. And here we go. Jenny says, boggles the mind, especially when a phone call can resolve things in moments instead of back and forth emails for hours or days. Yeah. An email keeps people at a distance. Makes me feel lonely personally. I'm with you. Kelly says there was an old show called Sequest. I loved that show. Who the dude from Jaws was in it. That did an episode on a planet that all the people stayed home and only interacted through computers. When they arrived, only one boy and one girl left. And they had to help them meet each other face to face. I remember thinking how strange that was. Now it doesn't seem so impossible. Yeah. I don't remember that episode, but I do remember that show. And I remember liking it a lot. One more quote. Laziness may appear attractive, but work gives satisfaction. We all want to feel accomplished, don't we? We all want to feel like we spent our time wisely. We want to reap the rewards of the work that we do. If you don't do the work, there's no reward. And I think that has become a bit of a pervasive attitude. People don't want to work. A lot of people don't want to work. And I mean that literally and figuratively, but they still want rewards. They think that because other people have worked, they deserve work. Now, this happens in the martial arts, happens all over the place. Nothing worth having comes easily. And if it does, you won't value it. And we see that time and again. I'm going to draw the line on that subject there, because pretty much anything else I could say starts to get, if not political adjacent. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for coming by. Thanks for spending some time with me. My coffee. It's Thursday. There's an episode of Martial Arts Radio. Episode 801 is, I'm going to put my coffee in my martial arts radio mug to remember. It's the newest Q&A, rapid fire Q&A number 23. We've been doing this for almost 2 years. Isn't that crazy? You can find it on YouTube. You can find it in your podcast feed, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you will send Andrew some questions for number 24. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day. And don't be afraid to reach out to people by phone or by video, or even better, in person. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for Friday. Peace.